And good morning, everybody. Well, we had to pre-record this week, so I don't know what day we're playing this on. But today we're talking with Ryan Smith, Smitty on Twitter. If let me show this real quick. Yeah, you can find him. He's going to be talking to us about the gaming scene. Video games are really popular. Streaming is popular. Twitch is popular. He also comes to us from confreaksandgeeks.com. So if you want to check out what's going on there, please do. Welcome.
Thank you. Again, thank you so much for having me on the show. Good morning to everybody. It is a pleasure. I'm really excited, especially for folks that aren't as familiar with video games and esports and what's going on there. I'm excited to have a conversation and let people know because it is an exciting industry and it is absolutely blowing up.
So what's happening in esports right now?
Well, kind of like we're saying, and especially I feel like, we were all affected by the pandemic, and really that kind of allowed the digital spotlight to really shine both on social medias and video games, everything. Everybody was stuck inside looking for stuff to do. And I really feel like a lot of people were able to kind of rekindle their love for video games. You see in the streaming sector, you have a lot of newer streamers and people that had that time to sit down and set stuff up and just to get out and do something and be able to socialize with people. In terms of video games, it's interesting, especially in the esports arena. Over, here in the West, it's not as big. We do have things such as the Call of Duty League. We've got Overwatch League, Rocket League, all kinds of different sports, but it's just not as popular. Whereas, say like in Asia, you have League of Legends. It's one of the biggest esports, one of the biggest just games out there. It's a free-to-play MOBA. Essentially is what it is, top-down type of like base defense and trying to capture basically these points and then blowing up their base. And it is absolutely huge over there. You've got big like these athletes are superstars over there, and they are filling huge arenas. We're trying to, here in the West, capture that same feel. It just hasn't gotten there yet, and the popularity of esports hasn't gotten there yet, despite there being a ton of gamers on a, I guess, higher level. It just hasn't hit it. But they're trying to, and I feel like a lot of it, they're really modeling off of traditional sports. You have a lot of traditional sports figures that are backing esports teams teams or leagues and things of that nature, and they're building facilities. But again, when we went into the pandemic and everything closed, it really pumped the brakes on them getting, because they are banking on people coming in and filling these venues and stuff like that. So they kind of had a transition, which they weren't prepared for. However, the popularity over here just hasn't gotten to the level that I believe it's going to get to.
Are they watching these things in mainstream television in like places like Korea and South Korea?
I don't know if it's necessarily mainstream television. Again, with just the internet and YouTube and the accessibility everywhere, I feel like it is probably even more viable to use a streaming platform. Like originally, the Overwatch League was exclusively on Twitch, and then they ended up getting a better contract with YouTube, although that ended up hurting their viewership. There weren't the same tools, they didn't have the drops, and it took them a couple years to get their footing, but it is definitely improved. But I think for the most part, a lot of that stuff is just shown online. But I mean, if it's in a place in closer proximity, people are traveling and going to these events. I mean, they've sold out coliseums for the World Championships for League of Legends. I'm talking about huge stadiums completely filled. And you're thinking, man, like, how is that, how does that work exactly? It's just some people sitting down in front of a computer or whatever playing video games, but they make it a show. The same as any other traditional sport you would see. You've got, other entertainment. You've got the big lights and fireworks and all that stuff. So they know how to do it, and they're doing it, and people are showing up. It just hasn't gained that kind of popularity here, at least in the States, is primarily what I'm speaking of.
And the players are making pretty good money, aren't they?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, aside from the pots that they win, and then they also have the ability to play in I'm guessing tournaments, although I don't know how that works contractually, if they are allowed to go out and just kind of do freelance stuff, or if they are exclusive to just working with the team. But I mean, or a lot of people should, that this is a number one, esports and video games is a young person's sport. And unlike a lot of other sports, you think that the time frame, the window to be able to be an athlete is kind of short for traditional sports. It's even shorter for esports. That's why you're saying, yeah, these kids that are coming out of high school, coming out of college, the motor skills are super up there, just their reflexes, all that stuff. So it definitely helps. Now, I'm not saying that you can't be an athlete on the older end of that spectrum, which would be late 20s. But it's a lot of the kids and I'll say that they are kids, 18 and beyond. And then you've got programs like here in Nevada, Nevada's Education League. They're at the high school level, they're at the college level, they're offering programs, they're offering scholarships, so this stuff. So a lot of people think, oh, it's just people playing video games. What I feel a lot of people miss is that there's a lot that goes into it aside from people playing video games, the production values within it alone, doing venues, marketing. There are a plethora of career path opportunities that folks can go into, to where video games in that sector is a viable career option for younger people.
So do you find former players being commentators like you do in other sports?
Exactly. They'll become commentators, analysis. They've gained enough to be able to either create their own team. I've interviewed coaches, some folks that are coaches that they play the games and they're really good, but they're coaching these players. So it's just crazy to think how many different job opportunities have really opened up, obviously with the internet and the ability. I feel like a lot more people now are open to remote work and things like that. So you don't even have to physically be at a place to be working somewhere. I could be halfway across the world still working for somebody here in the States or vice versa. So it has really opened it up. And I'm glad, a couple of big things for me is, number one, I do feel, and I think it's super important for them to be, training classes, things like that at the high school level. And I think even before then, because you've got kids that are, I want to be a YouTube star. It's like, look, what you guys are missing is the hours upon hours and the money and the work and the blood, sweat, and tears that have gone into building a channel like that. It's not quite that easy. So, they need educating in that like, hey, here's what it realistically looks like. Here's options that you can do. And because not everybody's going to be able to do it, right? It's not going to be for everybody, whether and I think, personally, one of the biggest thing is being able to garner an audience, being able to bring people in. You have to be able to utilize social media. You have to be a marketer yourself, fill yourself around with people that know how to make graphics and this and that. You essentially are an all-in-one package. And this is where personal branding has become so important. It's not just about working for X, Y, and Z company. Now you yourself are a brand, and you need to be able to represent yourself, not only, depending on what type of content and what kind of stuff you're creating, but you need to be able to be brand friendly and know how to have those kinds of conversations with those people. Or you've got people going on social media acting a fool and they lose huge contracts and kill their careers in one night because of a dumb tweet, you know? And again, I get it. I couldn't imagine me back being a teenager and having social media. I would have been ended a long time ago. I'm sure. But, you know, that's why it's important for them to have that kind of educating and training and just media training and how do you act professional in this kind of setting.
So there's a lot of pressure then on the kids,
Yes.
more so than there would have been when I played Nintendo back in the day.
Right.
'Cause yeah, there were smaller competitions, maybe regional things, high score types of things, but nothing like this. I mean, the coaches are going to have to watch over the kids. The leagues are going to have to protect the kids, especially from themselves these days, especially like you were talking about with social media. So all of this sounds like it's that there's a lot of money going into it and a lot of money coming out of it.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at, and again, I'll use, I think it's Overwatch League or Call of Duty League, but to have a team in their league, the startup cost is $25 million. $25 million just to be able to have a team to participate in that league. There is a ton of money in it, but we're seeing it now. And this is where there's kind of that weird the business side of it and the gaming culture and community side of it are clashing. Because you see, and they see these businesses and they see the eyeballs that are there and how many people are watching and the kind of influence that they have. So they want to take advantage of that. But there hasn't, it's just kind of weird. And I'm going to use like Twitch, for example, and how they serve ads can be quite disruptive to people's streams and how they push that stuff out. And they've been working on that stuff for a while. So it's going to be interesting to see how those two sides continue to coexist, because they're only going to get, you know, increasingly closer and closer together as the popularity of this and generationally, as a younger generation comes up, they're coming up on this stuff. This is what they know. This is just a normal thing. Whereas for a lot of, especially, you know, older folks as well, this is something brand new. Like, I'm sorry, you're telling me you're making money. How much money playing video games? Say what?
So have these leagues and these esports leagues, have they affected in any kind of way the AAA game companies that make the games? Have they swayed what's coming out?
I think there has definitely been a major influence in that sector. And I would say probably one of the biggest ones that come to mind, I would say, would be Fortnite. And just the popularity that nobody knew was coming. And again, Fortnite wasn't the first battle royale. You had H1Z1, and I think there might have been PUBG as well. But something about Fortnite, they did it so well. They were able to capture the audience from young to old. It was free to play, so everybody can access it. And then they were making money by microtransactioning cosmetic stuff, just digital cosmetic stuff. So they literally shifted their whole business, not their whole business model, I'm sorry, but they shifted a bunch of resources, because I was playing a MOBA that they were working on, and they end up just walking away from it because they're like, we're going to go ahead and take those people and have them work on Fortnite. And I was mad, but I got it. You know, you can't deny, you know, they're making millions upon millions of dollars just from Fortnite, a free to play game. And then there was competitive tournaments for it as well. So I think that was the big, like, oh my goodness, look how many people are watching. Look how popular this is. How do we get on this? And then we saw more of these company advertisings. We see them sponsoring tournaments and getting more involved in video games. And now it's just at that point where it's trying to find a good mix between, because, you know, again, they are offering this stuff, YouTube, Twitch, things like that, and they have back end costs that they have to cover as well. But I can't imagine what kind of contracts they have, especially with these bigger companies, because my guess is a lot of their revenue would then be coming from these sponsorships, or a good amount of that revenue would start becoming I'm sorry, would start coming from these big sponsorship deals.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are some of the sponsors like that are going into these? And because I don't watch the esports, I'm
Mm-hmm.
totally out of the loop, so I don't know who else is involved with it. But I'm assuming there are some big corporate sponsors out there that are trying to get those eyeballs on themselves.
Oh, absolutely. Anything and everything. And just about if you could if you look at like the Super Bowl commercials, a lot of those companies are also tossing advertising in the streaming sector. Cable and satellite and things of those nature are going down in usage. Digital is the way it's at. It's been that way for a while. And I've got my background is in broadcast. So I was a production manager and ABC affiliate out here for years and just,
Mhm.
working in TV news. So a lot of that stuff, I saw that back in and how it worked for TV, and I saw that shift. I was like, wait a second, man, there's a lot going on here and live streaming and this and that. When I started getting into it, that's what really opened up my eyes because I didn't realize how big it was either. And I started until I jumped in. I was like, all right, let me hop in and see what streaming's about. Now, if anything, that'll at least give me some time where like I could just dedicated have some video game time and hang out. And I learned so much from it. I've met a ton of friends that now, I'm friends with and have met in real life. Shoot, we've met on social media. The power of it and being able to connect with people is amazing. And those platforms are no different. A lot of people use that stuff as a way to be able to connect with the outside world, connect with other people, and these folks that do have these huge channels, they've become superstars, but it's a weird level because there's so much access to their lives and so much access to them personally. So it's very different than say your traditional celebrity or something like that. So it's I'm sorry. I think I just talked myself into forgetting what the question was.
Well, that's okay. We'll just follow the rabbit down the hole and see where it leads us. Yeah.
Right on.
Um, let's talk a little bit about the celebrity because they walk out into the streets and they've got their anonymity, but if they show up at an event, there's no way that they're not going to get swarmed.
Mm-hmm.
You get them at a convention, you get them at one of the league events,
Mm-hmm.
and they're superstars. But then they go home and they take off the gamer stuff, and maybe just put on a turtleneck, and the that celebrityness is gone. I mean that's got to be hard on the young kids these days that are going through this
Well,
because
and I feel like that's where it's unique though, because even then, even when they're home, they're streaming or creating content, so they're still having to interact with people, having people say, and the internet, it's going to say everything from good to bad to, in the middle, about you, about what you're doing and whatnot. So it's a lot, I feel, especially being in such a connected world where you need to be able to take some time to look away. I've never gotten to a point where, we put something out and then you're just like, I'm not even going to look at the comments because it's out there. There's nothing that could change. This is only going to make me feel worse. I'm going to make sure that I'm keeping myself mentally sane and good and not, some people will have arguments on Twitter and I'm just like, what are you doing? Just arguing on the internet with this stranger. Like, what are you doing? Come on. Ain't nobody got time for that. So, I can't imagine at that level what it's like and to be able to, and it's got to be important to be able to take some time to just be a person, to step away from the socials and not allow people to have all the access they want to. Again, that's going to be on you. They still have that access through your socials and stuff like that, but it's up to you whether you're going to check that stuff out, if you're going to reply to people, or you're like, I'm not even going to, a lot of them, I don't think even probably answer majority of the people that are saying things anyway. Cause I mean, why? It's just random people saying things.
yeah. So let's say my eldest son, he wants to try to be a gamer.
Mm-hmm.
What games are he gonna is he gonna look at to try to get good at, so that he can maybe see about joining one of these leagues.
So, are we talking about in terms of streaming, or are we talking about like esports, like
esports?
Esports.
Esports.
You know, there's a couple of different genres of esports. It really depends on what kind of games they already like, what they're, if you're thinking about that, you already have a game or a genre that you see yourself like, man, I'm pretty good at this. Maybe I could do something with this. Maybe I could turn this into a professional career. And it starts with that educating. It starts going out and meeting other people, playing in smaller tournaments, and then getting bigger tournaments, and hopefully you're placing high enough to where you start creating buzz and basically just putting in the work. Just like everything else, you got to put in the work. These people are practicing again every day, right? They're practicing hours every day, and it's not just the games. They also have to physically make sure that they are taking care of their bodies and their selves, so they have that kind of stamina and longevity. Say they were pushed into a long match or something like that. They're probably training their minds, watching films, watching what other teams that they know that they're going up against, or if it's a particular person, studying and seeing what kind of things they do, so you can build a strategy that's going to help excel and help you to win your match if you end up having to go against them. So there's a lot of areas, but I would say the first one is identifying, again, that game or genre, and then putting that work in. Yeah, after that, it's going to be putting the work in, playing every day, finding the best people you can play, entering yourself into tournaments. And I would say too, look for training as well. Look for media training. Look for just education wise. I'm a very firm believer in, and I not only if you want to do something, I also want to kind of know what back end stuff goes into this thing that I want to do as well. Because again, it's a short lived career in professional esports, right? So your time to shine is going to be limited. You put in that work, but you also have to think of the future and what you're going to do once you can no longer compete at that level. So that again is where you've been building your personal brand from the jump off. So if you have any kind of presence, whether it's big or small right now, act like you've got a million followers, and you should start, that's how you should be treating your social media, is curating content that people can go and say, oh, I know this one guy that does, X, Y, and Z. You should check out his thing. Or, and then that's going to funnel into everything else that you're doing. And it kind of goes from there. But from the esports side, I would definitely say, and I am actually, because within esports, there's not only the professional side of it, but a lot of teams also have kind of like an entertainment side. The bigger ones. I'm a part of the Las Vegas Inferno. It is the esports team of Las Vegas. And it was just important, number one, to be a part of a local team for me, because we're not only just playing games, we're doing charities. We raise money to bring a gaming console or a gaming station to Summerlin Hospital here in Las Vegas. We've worked with Starlight Foundation, Children's Foundation. There's so much. We've gone together and gone to baseball games and just hung out, and it's really interesting. There's so much more to it than just playing video games. Again, think of it like that traditional sports team, right? You'll see them put on community events or have people in or doing little, doing charity stuff or doing little skits or something like that. Same sense in esports. There's no difference, I feel, in what they're trying to accomplish with that. Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. This is the Las Vegas Inferno. I've been a content creator for them for, I want to say, 4 or 5 years. We've got a fantastic roster of streamers, and again, we have our pro our esports athletes that play. They play things such as Rocket League and some other stuff. But a lot of great content creators. There are the CEO and founder Hyro Glyphics, fantastic dude. LV Fight, Time Lord, so many great people, and their roster is building. They're partnering up with other brands and other companies, both locally and on a national level. So there's just so much to an actual organization. I'd rather call it, they have their teams, but the teams are all still part of an organization that's doing more than just playing games and competitively.
I see there's each league and each team. They also have their own sponsors as well that contribute to the community. It seems like there's a lot more going on, like you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I want to thank you, Ryan, for stopping by today. I wish we had more time to talk. I want to bring you back later on. We'll cover some more topics and a little bit more about this. Maybe closer to when there's an event happening, we can talk about what's going on, who's in the lead, or just teach me more, because
yeah, we've got the esports awards coming out here to Las Vegas mid-December at the at Resorts World is where it's happening. So that's going to be huge. That is the pinnacle of esports awards award shows.
And that's where I could learn something. Who's who and who's the best.
Yeah.
And what's being played and everything else. But if you want to follow him on Twitter, you can follow him on at Smitty2447. Same thing on Twitch. And go to confreaksandgeeks.com to find out more information. And of course, what was that again? The Las Vegas Inferno. To see what's happening there in Las Vegas. Thanks a lot. Appreciate you coming by.
Thank you so much for having me. Hope everyone has a good morning.